All right, so in this video, we'll be talking about Python syntax, variables, variable assignments, how to create variables, and then how to output and how to write comments. All of that, let's begin. So here, I'm just writing my code in main.py, although I can create a new file as well, or let me write it directly in the console. Okay. So we know that if we are trying to get an output, we can directly type in the console. First of all, print statement is used to get the output, and the syntax is print and then parentheses. Now I'm going to use Python as a calculator, so I can just say print 4 plus 5 because I wanted to add those two numbers, and I can say print 6 minus 1 because I just wanted to subtract. Print, let's say I want to multiply two numbers, so 5 times 4, and so on, right? So I have all these operators that I can use, and using these operators, I can use Python as a calculator. So let's say the division operator looks something like this, like /, and divided by 2 maybe, and this is the output that I get. All right. So this is how we can get output directly in the console. I can write it here in the editor as well. But now we are talking about, as I said, we'll be talking about variables, and variables are these placeholders that can be used to store some value in there. Okay, so what does that mean, and how do we create variables? Well, the way to create variables is pretty simple. Let's say I'm creating this variable called x, and I just have to do this equal to sign, which is known as the assignment operator in Python. So I'll just say x equals 5. This tells Python that assign value 5 to x or to the variable x, right? And let me just run it. So in order to run this in the editor, I can just say run. Nothing happened, that's fine, because I've just created a variable, right? Let me write multiple lines, and then I'll talk about how to get the output. Let me also get another variable y, and I'll assign this value 9 to my y. So essentially this is telling Python that x has value 5, y has value 9, similar to what the concept we have in math. And then just print x times y. And let me now run this complete script, so to say. So when I do run, I do get this output, which is 45, and that's what 9 times 5 is. Now here, until and unless I had the print statement there, I wasn't getting any output. That's because all I was doing was assigning the value on the right hand side of this equal to sign to the left hand side, which is my variable. So this is how we create variables in Python. The moment we use an assignment operator, which is an equal to sign, this tells Python that we have created a variable, and the value on the right hand side of the sign or this equal to operator is the value that it takes. Okay, a little bit more about assigning values to variables. Let's say I again create a variable x, and I say x equals 10, right? And then I say print x times y again, right? And let me just remove this one, this print. I don't want this. Let me do this, right? So notice x is 5 and then y is 9, then x is again 10. And let's see what the output is, what the result is. And the result is 90, which means that it has in some ways discarded or just ignored the earlier value. And this in Python is known as dynamic typing, which means the variable gets updated. That means it takes the most recent value as the final value. So if you're just reassigning the same variable again and again, it is going to take the most recent value, which is the case here. All right, a little bit about variable names. So we saw that we name these variables like x and y. Well, there are a few rules, and we will keep visiting and revisiting them. So a variable can start with a letter. So for example, car equals 10. So that's a valid variable name. But if I say something like 1 car equals 10, and let me just type it here, 1 car equals 10. Right, so it gives me this error because I cannot begin with a number. The number can be included in some other way. For example, I can say car 1 equals 10, and this will allow, the Python allows me to create that. But your variable name cannot begin with a number, but it can have letters and numbers, and it can contain a combination of all of those. And you can begin with an underscore. So there are three things: an underscore, these alpha value like the alphabet, both uppercase and lowercase, and the numeric values like the numbers. But just remember that you cannot begin with a number. You can begin with an underscore or a letter. The third thing is that these are case sensitive, which means that car1 is not the same as car1 because there is this difference of case. And so these are two different variables because it's case sensitive. So these are like some of the important things that we need to remember. About output variables. So we just saw that like whenever we are creating an output, we need this print statement, right? Just like we did here. So we needed this print to output something to my console, right? So we can use this print statement to separate text and numbers by commas. For example, I can write something here. Let me show you an example here. I can say the product of X and Y is, and then just like everything that like every text that I write should be within quotes, as you can see, and then separated by comma. And let me just like run this. Right, so I get this like complete sentence that says the product of X and Y is 90, and notice that there is a space that gets introduced like whenever I have a comma. And then I can like go on like with another set of like commas. I can say the value of X is, and I know that my X, okay, so this has to be within quotes. So the value of X is, and then just like X, right? And then the value of, again, go inside the quotes, the value of Y is, and then just Y, because X and Y have some values there, right? And just like run it, you see that we get this entire sentence of like the product of X and Y is 90, the value of X is 10, and the value of Y is 9, the way we wanted it to be, right? So this is showing us how we can like output, and there are different ways of like nicely formatted, of getting nicely formatted outputs, especially using the print statement. You just have to like separate out your text and your calculations or your numbers with these commas, and they already will like have this spacing there, right, in between that you can utilize in some ways. All right. The last and the most important thing that we're looking at in this video is to write comments in Python and how to do that. Let me just remove this and let me write a comment. So a comment begins with a hash symbol, and I'll just write this program calculates the product of two numbers. All right, and then just let me run this, and I get like whatever I was getting earlier. This doesn't show up. Well, the reason it doesn't show up is because this is a comment, and comments are essentially used to explain code and make your code more more readable, and then sometimes it can be used to prevent execution when you're testing your code. So for instance, let's say I had some other variable here, like let's say this, but I don't want this X to be used, this X10, the second one, right? So I can just like comment this out, and it helps me because I can just like keep it there, and maybe I want it at a later point in time, then I can utilize that, right? But right now I can just like comment it. Or in addition to that, sometimes within the code you need to write like comments. For example, you can just say comment on that same line, this is the value of Y. This won't be executed. So essentially what's happening is like anything after the hash is not executed, and that's why it's considered a comment. And sometimes it's for our own benefit because we just like want to keep like a record of what we did there, and so we just want to describe that, or we just want to have like a comment that explains what we're doing. And sometimes like when we are trying to figure out some bugs in our code, that's when it helps as well. All right, so that's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next video when we'll talk more about variables and how to use them.